Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Nick Cage Fight podcast, where we haunt your evening like the ghosts of podcasting past, present, and future. We do this in the hopes that you'll learn your lesson and change your life while you still have the chance. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always at this festive time of the year by Rich and Ryan. How are we?
Wait, so which one of us is which is what I want to know.
I actually 100% thought about this. You're past, I'm present, Ryan is future.
I am a spooky man.
All right. I will take a shapeshifter.
But you know, honestly, that was entirely because you had a podcast before. This is my first podcast, and Ryan is clearly the one with the brightest future out of the three of us in podcasting.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, he does. I see it.
Ryan does not 90% of what makes this show go is Ryan.
Yeah.
Let's be super clear about this.
And we are here today to discuss Christmas Carol, the movie, which is its official title, a 2001. Although I actually got conflicting reports on this one. In some places listed as 2001, some places listed as 2003. I think it's 2001, but it's rated PG. Unfortunately, Scrooge does not learn to fight the Bone Army, so there's no real violence implied or otherwise.
Yeah, he does not understand their sense of humor.
Yeah, and it runs an hour and 17 minutes. So pretty classic Christmas Carol storytelling, which I'll be honest, not to sound like a Grinch or a Scrooge myself, but I'm just not that enamored with the Christmas Carol story. I don't necessarily like Christmas movies in general. My Christmas watch list is very much off the beaten path. So this was festive and time appropriate, but I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as other people would or should. I don't know.
No, this is very, very low on the Christmas Carol retellings as far as I'm concerned. Because, like, number one, obviously, Muppets Christmas Carol.
Absolutely.
No argument whatsoever.
And then you have like a bunch of like good to mid-tier ones, like, you know, Scrooged.
Yeah, where he gets stuck the same day until he learns his lesson.
Yeah, that is Scrooged. There was one that just came out that I sort of enjoyed in a really weird way called Spirited.
You recommended that. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, like I kind of thought about it. And I don't think it's as good as I first thought that like it was, but it's still like fine. It's the jokes land. It's okay.
See, the Christmas stuff I like is I gotta go see that new movie. I can't remember what it's called, like Violent Night or something.
Oh, is it
Santa,
the
like,
one
fights a bunch of bad guys?
It's like
Santa
David
John
Harbour, right?
What was that?
It's
Santa
Santa John Wick.
Yeah, and it's done. It's Santa's played by David Harbour.
Yes, that. See, that's the kind of Christmas movie that would capture my attention.
So
I also didn't mind Krampus. Krampus was fun.
This was a lot of fun.
Like that movie, like the fake movie on I Think You Should Leave, starring Santa Claus, and then he gets really upset.
Yeah.
Crashmore, Detective
Crashmore, yeah. You told me you wouldn't talk about any Santa shit.
Yeah, no. So I mean, like I said, Christmas is lower on my general tier of holidays. Not because I don't necessarily appreciate it, and your boy enjoys Mariah Carey music. So when they don't stop playing her for a month straight, I'm not as bothered as your average retail worker might be. And I like snow. I like the cold. I like getting people presents. But it's not a top tier holiday for me. And so the classics just don't really hit home. I can't even tell you if I may have never actually fully sat through It's a Wonderful Life. Like
No,
one
I have
time.
not.
It sucks. It's
Right.
about like an angel trying to convince a dude that's giving subprime mortgages out that he deserves to live.
What?
Yeah.
That makes no sense. All right. Now I might have to watch this movie just to roast this movie. But first things first, let's just dive into the housekeeping on this one because it's weird, by the way. And if you guys didn't take, I know
It's a weird cast.
It is a strange cast. It's a strange everything. But let's dive into it and fire up the old housekeeping machine. So starting with the director, we have Jimmy T. Murakami, who did most notably Heavy Metal.
One of the segments in Heavy Metal, not the whole movement.
Heavy Metal. Okay. All right. Keeping me honest. Also did a series called The Story Keepers. It comes in several flavors, original, Christmas, and Easter. I have no idea what the hell that is.
I would actually say his most important work is When the Wind Blows, which is a nightmare-fueled animated feature about an elderly couple in Britain surviving a nuclear post-apocalypse.
Shit, that sounds awesome. Why didn't we watch that movie?
No Nick Cage, no deal.
That's right. That's the crux right
Yeah,
there.
that's the deal.
And also directed a weird one of those weird practical effects old sci-fi movies called Battle Beyond the Stars, which
Those are always good. So
yeah, I started looking at production stills from that because it was really goofy, because like the aliens have like, I think it's like 3 eyes or something weird, and it's all bad costumes. But that's who we have directing it. And then the writers, we have 2 writers, with them throwing a credit to old Charlie Dickens himself, of course. But the first one is Piet Kroon, and their career mostly includes art department gigs. Some good art department gigs, including Osmosis Jones, Shrek 2, and The Iron Giant. I didn't really see any other writing credits, though. And then we have Robert Llewellyn, who actually voices one of the characters in this movie, but was apparently an actor on and wrote for Red Dwarf, which is one of those shows that I hear people talk about. Like there's like a weird, oddly committed fan base, but I've never.
And I'm part of it.
There you go. I had a feeling we would be able to get some traction on the Red Dwarf.
Yeah, there'd be
thing.
some sort of crossover.
Yeah, Red Dwarf
Between
is like
one of us.
If Star Trek was actually good.
Oh, you're going to upset potentially a subset of our audience by talking shit on the Trek.
I mean, I'll talk shit on Trek. I'll talk shit on Wars. Neither of them is half as good as Dune or Battlestar Galactica.
All right. I mean, hey, look, if you get angry, you know where to reach us. But yeah, so I thought that was strange, just with one of the writers coming primarily from an art department, and the other writer primarily biggest thing on the CV being Red Dwarf. No hate on Red Dwarf. Just seems an odd transition from sci-fi to A Christmas Carol, but maybe not that big of a leap.
Especially since British film production is a very insular industry. Like there's only so many dudes on that island that do writing and work in that way.
Gotcha. And then we move on to the cast, which I kept this relatively short because A, they don't have a lot of recognizable credits in here. And B, because there's just not a lot of characters in this story. So we have Simon Callow as Scrooge. Oh, I'm sorry. Jesus. I committed a cardinal sin on this baby Jesus's birthday. Nick Cage voices Marley, or Marley's ghost.
Well, look, I think he'll forgive you this time, because it's very rare that we go over a Nick Cage movie where Nick Cage is not the main person.
Yeah, that's true. Also, I say all the time, he's a man who needs no introduction. I actually, that's clearly gotten stuck in my brain now, but he always deserves his credit at the top of the list on this podcast. But following Nick Cage, we have Simon Callow as Scrooge, who
I know from one thing and one thing only, which he was the bad guy in Ace Ventura 2.
Yeah, he's also in an episode of Inside Number 9, which is a show I love.
Oh, there you go. Also, I mean, some other standouts or recognizable titles that he has worked on is Four Weddings and a Funeral, Room with a View, Shakespeare in Love, and the 2004 Phantom of the Opera.
I think he's on The Witcher too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that sounds correct. I think he played a bad guy or a wizard or both, a bad guy wizard. I'm not entirely sure.
He does give off big wizard energy.
Yeah.
He was in another Christmas Carol in 2018 as well.
Did he play Scrooge in that too?
It just says narrator actor, so he was at least a narrator.
I mean, they pump out one of those like every 2 years. There's
Why are we still doing this?
I don't know.
I saw a stage version last year, and I'm just like, what's the point here?
Next up, we have Kate Winslet as Belle, Nurse Belle, who you might know from Titanic. It was a kind of a sleeper movie. Eternal Sunshine.
Not a lot of people have seen it.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's like really long and inaccessible.
Yeah, I had to look it up.
Yeah, it's got like some weird nude scenes. The scene where like the main character, who's actually played by Leonardo DiCaprio, not a lot of people know that.
I thought the lead was Billy Zane in that.
No, you know what? So of the people that I have talked to that have seen Titanic, common misconception, but it's actually Leonardo DiCaprio. But the scene where he like wins his tickets, like it's a really weird and rushed.
Yeah, he
It's the
seems like a
golden one
tertiary.
in a chocolate bar, right?
Yeah, he seems like a tertiary character. Shouldn't it be the rich guy who's the main man?
Okay, I can't keep this bit going much longer.
Good,
I'm
because
sorry.
I got the finishing blow. Titanic, the movie, of course, that is now too old for Leonardo DiCaprio to date it. Also most recently, Kate Winslet was in Mayor of Easttown, which was a good show. It was based. Well, sorry, I enjoyed it, but it's basically like a serialized version of Mystic River, in my opinion. So if either of you have seen both of those, you could agree or disagree, but I'm seeing blank stares.
I haven't
Somebody will
seen
get it.
Mayor of Easttown. I do like Mystic River, though. I think that's one of Kevin Bacon's best roles.
I just really like her hoagie mouth accent because it makes me feel
Yeah.
like I'm home. Because
Yeah.
I was living in New York at the time, and I would just watch it to hear people who talked like me.
But yeah, no, I actually I did enjoy watching that show. It was decent. Moving on from Winslet, we got Michael Gambon as the Ghost of Christmas Present. Most people will know him as second Dumbledore after the first guy who played Dumbledore died. But he was also in Book of Eli, The King's Speech, and Layer Cake, which is a movie I actually really enjoyed.
He's also the guy that gets murdered in one of my favorite whodunits, Gosford Park, the movie that ended up spinning off into Downton Abbey, a much more boring production.
Oh, did not know that.
Yeah, me neither. Next up, we have Jane Horrocks as the Ghost of Christmas Past. She has an extensive list of voice acting for animated films, including Corpse Bride, Chicken Run. She was the voice of the phone from the Teletubbies, and a number of other things.
Interesting little bit about Chicken Run. That's apparently Stephen King's favorite animated film.
Interesting.
I would have thought it would have been Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
I mean, if he saw it, he might like it.
I actually unabashedly love Cloudy with a Chance.
No,
of
that
Meatballs.
movie absolutely fucks.
Yeah, that whole studio is great. Like everything they've put out is at least a little bit fun.
Yeah, I like, honestly, and I don't think it gets enough credit. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is really great, and another one that I liked a lot that I never see referenced very often is Robots.
Yeah, you lost me on that one.
It was
Didn't
good.
see it. I know it's the same studio, but I only have brain space for so many children's movies.
Understandable. I don't know why I've seen so many of them. I don't have kids myself, but I have seen a number of them. But I enjoy a select handful. Next up, we have Rice Ifans. I know I'm not pronouncing that right. As Bob Cratchit.
Well, I think his first name is Reese. I think that's how you say that.
Reese Ifans.
Yeah, he's Welsh. They don't pronounce words right out there.
It doesn't. It looks like a misspelled name. No offense, but
But also fuck the Welsh, you bunch of sheep fuckers.
Oh, God damn! There goes our Welsh listeners.
Actually, Wales, I love you. Like Cardiff is so much fun. I want to go there again. It's great.
There you go. Best sheep around. But people would likely recognize this gentleman from, he was in The Amazing Spider-Man, which was in between the Tobey Maguire and whatever the new kid's name Spider-Man is, the Andrew Garfield ones. He was the Lizard.
Yeah,
He's
the ones with the best Spider-Man but the worst writing. Andrew
Yeah,
Garfield is the best Spider-Man. I will fight to the death over this opinion.
I enjoyed him as Spider-Man. I think he looked the right age for the role, and he did the quippy bit very, very well, in my opinion. But yeah, this guy's also in House of the Dragon, Notting Hill, and the Snowden movie.
And Vanity Fair, which is a pretty okay costume drama, kind of like a period piece.
Yeah, period pieces are not not something I've ever been able to get into. I don't know what it is. It just defies my brain's ability to pay attention. It literally just shuts off.
I'm a big fan of them. Like the production aspect is always fascinating to me, especially if they got like special features you can really dig into where they show like seamstresses doing all the costuming. I think that stuff's really cool.
Hey, they're clearly making that shit for somebody. That somebody just ain't me.
It's me.
And then last we have Juliet Stevenson as Mrs. Cratchit, who was in movies such as Bend It Like Beckham, Emma, and Nicholas Nickleby, which I threw in there just because of the alliteration. I have no idea what the movie's about.
Yeah, zero idea.
Yep, got me. And that's it. I don't know if I missed anybody particularly important. I did mention Robert Llewellyn, one of the writers, voiced a character. That character is Old Joe, who's basically just a mean dickhead.
He was like the debt collector, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's like
The illiterate debt collector.
The button
Yes.
man for Scrooge.
So yeah, that's gonna wrap up housekeeping, and we can get into the plot of this very old story that I feel like everybody knows. But we can talk about the weird bits in this movie. I don't think that they took too many liberties with the storyline, but for a story that is supposed to appeal to children or nostalgic adults, I have some questions as far as the execution is concerned. But we start off with some live action shots with some bad CGI in the form of a mouse. But it's essentially like Charles Dickens showing up to some playhouse to do a reading of one of his pieces, right? It's just an old dude in a top hat talking to another old dude in a top hat, and they go out of their way to make sure you know that it's old Charlie Dick himself doing this reading. And he's being followed around, as I said, by a little animated mouse. He gets up on the stage, he does his introduction, almost steps on the mouse, and before he really gets into anything, a woman in the front row like shrieks because she sees the CGI mouse, which I got to give her
not
some
very
credit.
impressive.
It would freak me out too. I'd probably scream if I saw something like that.
Apparently, I watched a different cut than you guys did. Those live action sequences were removed for the DVD release of this.
Really?
Oh,
so
man.
It just starts on the animated street with the mouse, and you have no context for the mouse?
Exactly. Yes, and the mouse is confusing. Like
it should be. The entire introductory scene is just like Charles Dickens is like, I'm gonna tell you a story, and it's gonna be about a mouse. And at the end, he brings it full circle with the fucking mouse, and you got none of that.
I couldn't understand why Scrooge was being so nice to some mice.
Yeah, it was weird. I felt like they were almost trying to it felt like they had a movie and they were just like, no, hang on. We need to market this to kids somehow and sell some merchandise. How are we going to do that? I know.
You got to cut in on that Muppet market share.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to make a mouse, and this mouse is going to be the biggest thing that Great Britain has ever seen.
What they did instead was make an 1-10-minute movie that is dull as dishwater.
I'm sorry. I'm still trying to because like the book ends on this film, the animated portion of this film are not particularly important. They don't strike you as important when you're watching them, but imagining having just seen the animated bits without that does introduce two very confusing characters, one being Gabriel the mouse, and the other one, as far as I know, is unnamed in the course of the film.
I think it's just a mouse friend.
It's a mouse friend. Yeah. And actually, for a little while there, it took me a while to realize there were two separate mice before they like teamed up, because
I was confused by that.
They only showed them in like separate scenes, and the color difference is like a shade off of each other. So when they both showed up in the same scene, I was like, oh, fuck, there are two mice. Anyway, after the brief live action introduction, we switch into animation mode, and it has, a mouse on the streets of London right around Christmas time. And we briefly follow a couple of businessmen talking about important business stuff and shift very quickly into a room filled with sick children. And they're playing with a mouse because not only are they sick, they are poor. And if you're destitute, you play with the vermin that infest the place that you are living instead of, doing stuff with toys.
Well, yeah, you can't afford blocks or anything. So
yeah, no, you gotta play with mice. One thing that this is where we get the mouse's name. The mouse is named Gabriel by the children. But the funniest part of this scene that stands out to me, so that that these kids are sick, there's one little girl, there's a nurse Belle is running around taking care of them. And there's a little girl who's saying something, I think, about the mouse, and then starts coughing. But the voice acting goes from like a little girl's voice to a grown adult cough, like so you can tell just how sick this child is. I rewound that part a couple of times because it made me laugh.
It did sound like a full-grown ass woman who smokes a pack of Pall Malls a day.
It's like a cocktail waitress cough, and just out of nowhere. And also to hit on the point as to how out of nowhere this is. it fooled me because later on in the film, Tiny Tim is classically sick and he coughs too. And I was waiting like edge of my seat for like a grown man cough because that's the expectation they set up earlier in the film. And they don't do it there. This is the only part in the film where they do it. So it makes no fucking sense. They had to do that in one take, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's this whole, and also I just want to say about the animation, it is the most British thing since seeing somebody drunk in a tavern watching soccer on Saturday at 11 a.m. ordering fucking fish and chips and playing darts. That's how fucking British this movie is.
See, it seemed more old than British to me. Now I'm going to compare it to something, and Ryan is going to go, "Yeah, that's British animation, you idiot." But it reminded me of the fucking animated Lord of the Rings. Did you guys see those?
Those are actually Ralph Bakshi. Well, at least one of them is, and I think the Hobbit one was Rankin and Bass, which is actually a company that was out of Japan, strangely enough.
Damn, I really wanted Ryan to just follow up with, yeah, it's British animation, you fucking idiot.
I'm not 100% sure if the Return of the King one was British, but I'm pretty sure the first one where they have the rotoscope Nazgul is a Ralph Bakshi production. The guy who did Fritz the Cat, American Pop, Cool World with Brad Pitt, which is a movie that not a lot of people like, but I think is really interesting.
I'm familiar with that one. But yeah, I mean, that's it. It reminded me of older animation more than just explicitly British animation. But I can't.
It didn't remind me of older animation because, like, when I think old, I think like 1930s, 40s, 50s, like Disney.
Yeah.
This just reminded me of cheap animation where I felt like instead of changing the animation, like Ryan and I were speaking off podcast about this, where it looks like they, instead of changing the animation every frame, they change it every third frame as like a cost cutting measure.
I think a bit more than that. When you animate on the ones, which is every frame, that actually looks a lot smoother than what you would get in regular standard like TV animation. That's what you get in like higher budget Disney kind of stuff. This movie is animated like the Germans are still flying over London, honestly.
Yeah, it's not a technical wonder by any stretch of the imagination. But then we get to we cut away from the sick children to Scrooge, who is handing over a ledger book to a guy named Old Joe. There's a brief, unintentionally funny exchange where basically we learn that Old Joe is illiterate, but he's got people who can read this book. And then he takes off in this weird, ominous looking carriage with a bunch of goons. And we cut back to Scrooge, who's just being a dick. I mean, this isn't even just being like a crotchety old miser. He's like shoving people, like shouting at children and kicking at dogs and stuff.
He is just wild. Actively, like, I don't know why they take the time to set up this world. Everybody knows who Scrooge is. Like, also, we understand that he is an absolute piece of shit. I don't need this 25 minutes of world building.
Well, why?
I mean, the Looney Tunes did this in 8 minutes flat. They did a Bugs Bunny Christmas Carol, and they hit all the major points in 8 minutes. This is, I would say, 62 minutes too long.
I'm not gonna lie. Like a half hour into this movie, like I pulled up the runtime. I'm like, son of a bitch, there's that much left.
Yeah, this movie was very draining to me as well because, again, there are 100 other retellings of this story and 100 better retellings of this story.
It's just beige. It feels like Grandpa's Rumpus Room's interior decor. It is the most boring thing I've seen all year. It's more boring than G-Force, which I didn't think was possible.
I'm genuinely shocked at the level of vitriol towards this film. I thought it was largely inoffensive and boring, but I thought that was because I was familiar with the story. But you guys have some very valid pain points to pick out with this film.
I mean, I watch a lot of animation, and this was just not that good of animation or storytelling or voice acting or sound mixing or really anything at all.
I do have a question. Why is one of the most iconic Christmas stories that we get a fucking remake for once a year. Maybe they take a year off here and there, about a shot at redemption for a person that doesn't seem to have any excuse for being the way they are. Like they go into a little bit that, like, you know, Scrooge's dad was a hard ass, at least in this film, but not nearly enough to justify the person he turns into. Why does he get a second shot? I don't understand that.
I mean, the original story is sort of like about redemption in general and reunion, and that those are supposed to be like the main points of Christmas, is that you give people second chances. Now, I like to think that the reason it's so popular is because of the Victorian England tradition of telling ghost stories around Christmas, which actually like spins off into some of my favorite horror stories of all time were written as, I'm going to tell this to my academic friends around Christmas, by like M.R. James being the specific author I'm thinking of. Charles Dickens was just, you know, more acceptable to the masses because he was already a popular author. The ghost story telling tradition was not very big in like the US. It was just a UK thing.
Oh, so they scare each other around Christmas time as a tradition.
Well, what the fuck else you gonna do in 1860 with your like smoke-filled lungs at 8 years old working in a factory?
Well, that makes it more badass. I'm a fan of ghost stories, and they're like, that's what we do for Christmas. I'm like, all right, that's a killer way to celebrate Christmas. I'm down with this.
There are a couple of American authors who tried to bring that tradition over, specifically Henry James and Nathaniel Hawthorne, an author I fucking hate. I do like Henry James quite a bit, but Hawthorne's a hack. But it just never really latched on in a way that it does in Britain. Like there's a TV show that comes on every year called A Ghost Story for Christmas on BBC, where they have I think it's one of like the dudes who used to work for Hammer Horror as like Dracula or something, read a ghost story for Christmas.
All right, that's cool. I'm going to look a little bit more into this tradition because now you have my interest piqued.
That is pretty cool, actually.
But we do still have some of this very old ground to tread here. But let's just hit the highlights. Essentially, you know, old Joe is Scrooge's button man, collecting debts and throwing people in prison if they can't. He even rolls up to Nurse Belle's little hospital right after Tiny Tim gets a checkup. Kid's not doing good. Kid is never doing good. But
that's kind of Tiny Tim's thing, is he's always fucked up.
But old Joe goes in, they arrest the doctor. He steals the money that the Cratchits paid for Tiny Tim's checkup, and then for no reason at all, he scares all the sick children, which is kind of funny. I'll give him that one. We do also see Scrooge being nice to like one creature in the entirety of the film, and that's like a little mouse that has invaded his bookkeeping shop. I'm not sure exactly. I think he was just the original version of those debt collectors that you get phone calls from, and you stop answering your phone. But Bob Cratchit works for him, and he's essentially a dick to everyone. Now, Nurse Belle finds out what's going on, that Scrooge's company has taken over the debt of the little kids hospital, and that he essentially just goes heavy on the debtor's prison instead of working with these people to pay off their debts. She has some history with him, so she writes out a letter, goes to try and deliver it, but Scrooge is not in, so she leaves the letter for him. I'm
actually really happy to know that the business of buying and selling each other's debts for less and less money has been going on for 200 years. That makes me warm and fuzzy.
It sucks so fucking bad. It's just amazing because it's a very old story, and we have the same thing today, but they call your cell phone instead of run up on you,
instead of throwing you in debtor's jail.
Yeah, I'd like to say that means things have gotten better, but I'm not quite sure if that is the case. They don't necessarily throw you in debtor's prison, but anyway. We see Scrooge be a dick to some more people, including throwing a bucket of water out the window at some Christmas carolers. Oh, and being a shithead to his nephew, who's like, come over for Christmas dinner, and he's like, what kind of scam is this? It's just like it's an invitation to a family dinner. What are you talking about? So the guy, the worst kind of asshole, and there's no good reason for it. It's never properly explained. I mean, even if he's supposed to be a greedy old dude, isn't like a free meal, something that you want at that point? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, he's shown as, being I don't know, is the word miser a slur?
No. I think it's too old. Well, no, I'm sorry. I was gonna say it's too old timey to be a slur, but that's where the primary ones come from.
Yeah, that's where most of the slurs come from. But Josh, do you know where you can hear a bunch of slurs?
In the upcoming ad? Who's doing our ads?
David Duke? Oh no.
You never know. They told me like, hey, do you want to add illegal content to your podcast ads? And I'm like, let's roll the dice and see what kind of content. Is it drugs? Sure. Is it things that I don't want? I don't want that on my podcast.
We going on see ad what happens. It's for Kanye's new album coming out.
His new album called in 3 parentheses.
Oh my god. Sorry, whatever company's ad is about to roll.
It's gonna be very funny when I beep that out in the edit, and nobody's gonna know what you said.
Advertisements. We're back, and I'm listening to the new Kanye joint called.
Oh my god, I want all of the bleeps over the intro and outro to that ad read.
You know they're coming.
Oh, son of a bitch.
People are going to think I'm really racist.
No, people are gonna genuinely wonder what you said, and that adds mystery. So I'm down for it. Whew, where was I?
See, which is weird because every time we make a Kanye joke, I'm gonna come up with something new to say, and it's always gonna be bleeped.
Yeah, that's okay. It's a good bit.
Yeah.
So Cratchit goes to head home to spend. It's Christmas Eve, right? It's supposed to be Christmas Eve, I think.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't care enough about the original story to confirm or deny that.
They weirdly don't say it in the course of the film.
So they do when Bob Cratchit goes up to Scrooge and he's like, "Hey, can I have tomorrow's pay too?" And Scrooge is like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, tomorrow's Christmas."
Okay.
And he just thinks that like Bob Cratchit is just like a lazy piece of shit for wanting Christmas Day off. And he's like, "No, it's like a thing. It's like you spend time with your family." And he's like, "All right, fine. You can have tomorrow off. Here's your pay. But the next day, you have to work twice as hard to make up for all of the time that you missed."
Yeah. Yep. Pretty fantastic. But
things haven't changed.
Yeah. So Cratchit heads off, and this is where we get like a weird change in the animation style for like 3 seconds and then never return to it for the rest of the film, where the introduction, the setup for a bunch of ghosts showing up is like the clock starts going crazy, book pages start fluttering, and the candles all start freaking out. But the animation on the clock hands just spinning wildly is actually pretty crisp and clear in comparison to the rest of the animation so far. It's pretty odd.
I'm wondering if that was B-roll from something else that the studio worked on, and they just wanted to reuse that. That seems like a possibility.
That's for me. Entirely possible. I mean, spinny clock hands. Everybody uses them. Everybody loves them. Nothing better than hands spinning wildly on a clock, man. But this, of course, all heralds the introduction of the ghost of Marley, who is voiced by Nick Cage. So I was like, yeah, all right, we get some Nick Cage content now. And I gotta hand it to him. At this point, every animated thing that we've seen so far, we've covered so far on the pod, and some of the stuff that I've seen already outside of research explicitly for the podcast, Nick Cage brings his A game for voiceovers, for animation things. He does a voice each and every time that I've seen so far, and he does the same with Marley. It's recognizable as Nick Cage, but not immediately apparent. Like, I was waiting for it, I was listening for it. He's doing a ghost voice, and it's pretty excellent.
He's making it spooky. I am also on my A game when I bring up our Patreon. I really like doing these ad pivots. They're very fun, where I can just be like, "What's the last thing Josh said?" And I can just be like, "You know who else?" Like, last thing Josh said is our
all right,
Patreon.
Youth pastor.
Yeah, I just need a chair to sit backwards so that they can just be like, "He's so cool."
You know who else was so cool? Jesus Christ.
And when I say they, you know that me and Kanye West are talking about. We're talking about the.
I
folks.
should have known to jump in front of that train immediately, but I wasn't sure if you had remembered the bit you were stuck on. So I didn't want to cut you off and just end up being rude.
Nope. I remember the
It's
bits I'm stuck
Kanye
on right
Christmas,
now.
everybody.
It's Kanye West at patreon.com/Nick Cage fight, where these Kanye jokes are still going to be bleeped because I don't want to get canceled. But the ads won't be there, as well as additional content, as well as other things that we do, such as like live streams and watch alongs, and hopefully Ryan speedrunning GeForce if we get 10 more people to sign up for our Patreon,
Please
which
do
I
that
really
to
want
me.
to happen.
Yeah, me too. Don't make me pay for it myself because I'm gonna see it one way or another. I would like some help from the community. Are we done with the pivots? Can I?
Yeah, I think I probably have 2 more Kanye West pivots in me.
That's
But,
fair. I mean, we got 2 more that we got to do this block. So
Just wait until I get my tempo back and then just dash it to pieces.
I'm just gonna listen. There's a lot of debt collection, talk about money. Like it's there. It's there.
It is. It's there. That's actually a very good question. Is a Christmas Carol anti-Semitic?
I don't
no, I don't. I'm fairly certain there isn't a single Jewish character in this story, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that the anti-Semitic part though? Why aren't they represented? Why aren't the around? Okay, beep that one out.
Yeah,
That was
but
a little bit too
bleep
on the
all
nose.
of this. We gotta get
That
back
that was too on the nose.
This is going to be a fun editing job.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Anyway, Marley.
I forgot how to dog whistle for a minute.
Oh my goodness. Marley shows up to basically tell Scrooge that he's living the wrong way. And I got to admit, Scrooge's initial response to this made me laugh. He's basically like, what are you talking about? Like, you lived awesome, dude. Like, we made a bunch of money, you were smart with it, and you died, but you had made a bunch of money. Like, that's the dream, right? And Marley's like, no, dude. Like, when you die, you become a ghost. Like, if you live like this, they put a bunch of chains on you, and some other weird ghosts that look kind of like you just sort of drag you around to yell at people. I guess that's the implication of how Marley is spending his afterlife. But he does warn Scrooge that 3 ghosts are going to show up and try and teach him lessons and shit. So also, Scrooge has one of the most nonchalant responses to ghosts in general in cinematic history, in my opinion. Because like Marley shows up, he accepts that he's a ghost immediately. He hears that he's going to be visited by 3 more, and he's like, yeah, fucking whatever. I'm too busy to deal with ghosts.
Can we do it? Can we schedule it another time?
Yeah.
It's weird because he's extremely dismissive in the original story, which I don't care about, but I have read. He believes that Marley is just an undigested piece of beef that he's hallucinating in his dreams about.
Okay, well that at least explains the attitude, because in this it comes across like he's like, yeah, whatever, ghosts are real. I don't give a shit. I've got stuff to do. So it's better context that he's like, he believes like he's hallucinating. He's not just accepting that ghosts are real and annoying.
Wait, so also honest question, and I would actually like listener feedback from this as well. How many people saw the Muppet versions first and didn't realize until they were like 23 years old that there were not 2 Marleys?
That is a good question.
Because
I don't know if the Muppet one was my first. I think I had seen another Christmas Carol prior to that. Because it's just the best.
The Muppet one was my first, and for years, I'm talking about I was a grown-ass adult thinking that it was Marley and Scrooge.
That's
because they had to
shoehorn
the other old guy in, so they made it Marley and Marley.
And it makes sense. It's more
Stetler
like
and Waldorf. Put some spec on their names.
It's more like a law
I'm
firm or whatever.
Yeah, you know who else loves the law? I'm not going to do this one. Not going to do it. Not today.
So, regardless of the original context, Scrooge seems entirely nonplussed by the concept that ghosts are real and planning on taking up some of his precious time. But after this, after delivering this warning, Marley is hauled off by the chains that are wrapped around him by other ghosts. And 2 guys come into Scrooge's office, like asking for money for charity, which I understand that it's meant to be like a real charity, but the way the lines are delivered, it's like a scam charity. Is like, what's this charity for? They're like, for the poor people. you know, it's the poor charity. It's a charity for poor people. Scrooge is like, fuck them. They should die and reduce the surplus population. That's cold as ice, first of all. And the level of contempt is just off the charts here. Scrooge walks out and shuts the door, leaving his office for the night with these two guys like still in the office.
Man, what like an eco-fascist. Listen, if the population goes down, the earth will heal itself.
It's like a Green Arrow villain.
Yeah.
It's like Elon Musk. Overpopulation is a problem. Send him to Mars.
So there's nothing more we can do here. I'm not making Elon Musk jokes for a few reasons.
Because you don't want our Twitter to get
no, I wouldn't mind that.
That fruit is hanging too low, I think.
The fruit is hanging too low. I would like to have a Twitter. That would be nice. But also, I don't want his Elon Musk goon squad to like come and like take me away in the night.
Look, in defense of going after low-hanging fruit, it's the easiest to get to. Throwing that out there. But Scrooge
Elon Musk would watch this movie and think it's a masterpiece.
No, I honestly, I think he would be annoyed by the ending. I think he was like, Scrooge was fucking right.
I think he would call it Marxist.
Yeah, he's like, ghosts are real and stupid and annoying, and this guy was fucking awesome, and all these people are just hating on him. He should have just bought the town and suspended all of those people who were.
This guy was the hero until he gave all his money away.
Well, see, that's the funny thing is he doesn't even give all of his money away in this. Like, we don't really see the altruism by the end. We hear a little postscript about it, but we don't really see anything of it.
Yeah, but look, I mean, the free market will dictate who lives and dies, and there's nothing that we can do about that.
Yeah, it's just that's just showbiz, baby. But essentially, we've set up these are just a heads up at the end of an episode. These are going to be shorter episodes. This is an old, tired ass story with not a lot going on. But I think we've set up for the ghost part. And spoiler alert: the animation likes to try and get a little artsy here. So we're going to be glossing over a fair amount of that ghost shit.
That is a generous way to describe what happens for those 7 or 8 minutes.
It reminded me of like impressionistic painting. I'm assuming that's what they were going for.
I'm assuming they were going for cheap, cheap, cheap.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat that they're going for cheap. But yeah, this is a hard one. I had to pull 6 minutes of Kanye talk out of my ass.
You did not have to.
I had to. It's relevant. It's what the kids like to hear.
Gets the people going. God damn. A reference to just another movie and a sample from a Kanye song.
And a Kanye song. Yeah.
I know.
A banger, a complete banger.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, we all miss the old Kanye, except for the new Kanye, I guess. I don't think he misses him too much.
Yeah, what happened to the George Bush hates black people Kanye? That's the Kanye I want in my life.
God, I remember when that happened. That was
him and Mike Myers was the funniest shit in the world.
Mike Myers looking that uncomfortable, like a man who excels at like really goofy, off-kilter comedy shit, just looking mortified on live television.
I got a theory about that. I'm pretty sure Kanye's been replaced by a body double like Elvis was.
Oh shit! So honestly, that's what they should have gotten into on the InfoWars interview with him. It was like he's definitely been replaced.
Wait, so if we wait long enough, will we get that Kanye?
God, I hope so. Ooh, that Kanye shitting himself to death. Ooh, that's just future history that I'd like to see.
Oh, that'd be great.
You know, the funniest thing is because I do follow inane shit like that as a hobby, but the folks that cover Alex Jones better than anybody, and as a result have been covering Kanye's descent into madness, the guy's
Knowledge
Fight. They explicitly made an Elvis reference too, and they're like, so I guess Kanye's gonna shit himself to death on a toilet at some point.
I like how they were like the main witnesses for like the Sandy Hook stuff because they know more about Alex Jones than literally anyone.
Well, yeah, they brought Dan on as a consultant for the case, which is amazing. If you want to talk about what a podcast can result in being called in, like, God forbid Nick Cage ever gets some sort of litigation thrown against him, but who knows? We might be called to consult on a case. It'll probably be a tax case though, so it would likely be a little bit dry and boring.
Yeah, and in which case I don't talk to cops. So
Yeah, no. If it is a dispute where the government is trying to take money from you, fuck you. Fuck that. We are not helping. Just put that out there.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, listen, no, you know what? No, I don't talk to cops. Doesn't matter. They could tell me that, like, listen, we're going after Bill Gates right now. Don't care. Don't talk to cops.
There you go. What about
Somehow this will
Bezos?
screw me.
They needed you to help build a case against Bezos, and they were going to redistribute his wealth. Would you talk to cops then?
I don't
No, it's
trust them to
clearly-
redistribute the wealth correctly. They're just going to buy themselves a couple more tanks.
Yes, that's
Yeah, they're
correct.
they're just taking the wealth from him and putting it into the cops. So I'm good.
yeah. That's not what we mean when we say to redistribute it. But no, I think we've set up appropriately for the part of the story everybody shows up for with Christmas Carol, which is the ghosts. I'm assuming at least, but we can cover those because those are some weird little freaks in this movie. So you'll want to stop by and check those out. We, of course, while we're still in the good graces of our technological overlord on Twitter at cagefight_pod, swing by. Tell us what you think about the fucking Christmas Carol if you want to bore us out of our minds, or talk about any of the other films that we have covered or you want us to cover. We will respond. It will be aggressive, but it'll be fun.
And you can go to patreon.com/Nick Cage Fight if you want to hear about, more race science, because that's my shit. I fucking love that.
That's not what we did.
We're gonna measure some skulls,
That's
measure hand size, test IQs.
Eugenics, baby.
I promise you, we've taken away Rich's calipers at least for the Christmas season.
But I want it.
No, not this year. You got to turn over a new leaf. New year, new you.
Oh no! I think we lost Ryan. I think
he's frozen, but he looks so happy.
Oh, there we go.
He's back.
Okay, he's back.
I think my internet decided to shit itself for a second there.
There you go. But yeah. Join us next time.
Like Kanye on a toilet.
Jesus. Join us next time for the conclusion of Christmas Carol the movie, where we'll cover the ghosts and put this thing to bed where it belongs. And as always, listeners, we appreciate you.